So I'm Ranease. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently a rising junior at the University of Cincinnati College-Conservatory of Music, also known as CCM. And I am originally from Connecticut. So I am kind of all over the place, slowly becoming a Midwestern girl. Currently, I'm spending my summer in Wichita, Kansas at the Music Theater Wichita. Really beautiful theater, great people. And it is a lot further west than Connecticut. So definitely been a fun little summer. But yeah.
That's awesome. And I know since you're from Connecticut, a little bit, I guess, background of like what sparked your desire to do musical theater. Was it a school performance you were in? Was it a mentor, a teacher?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, obviously, and it's still a culmination of things for me. One of them is I've grown up in the church. My dad is a pastor, my grandfather was a pastor, my uncle's a pastor. Everyone I know is in the church growing up. So I was always surrounded by music. I was always um, in the choir. I was also always learning music for like our praise and worship team. And then at school, we always had like a drama um, class, or we had to be part of the school play or something. And I always enjoyed that. And then when I found out that you could do both at the same time and have music and theater together, I was hooked from the first time I did a musical, which I think I was like 6 or 7 in first grade, and it was Flat Stanley, The Adventures of Flat Stanley, the
Oh,
musical.
yeah.
But I did that, and then my older sister is also an actress, and specifically in musical theater, and she is um, just one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to theater. And she's 8 years older than me. So we kind of have a little bit of an age gap, but I was always able to see her shows. I was always able to hear her singing around the house. And it just really inspired me. And so I never stopped doing theater from age 6 until now. And so it's been like a little over what 16, 15 years. So yeah, I'm hooked on it. I love it. It's what I'm studying in school, and it's what I want to do career wise. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that you're so open about starting at a very young age. And I think some people want to kind of like bury the past. It's like, listen, I'm pursuing my career now. Like, I don't really want to think about my previous performances. Like, a lot of people are kind of
Yeah.
like future driven. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely something I actually take pride in, is just how I feel like as we get older, we tend to lose our creative aspect. We tend to lose our inner child. And I've always been passionate about art. I was also a competitive gymnast growing up. And I'm also not, you know, I'm not, what's the word, ashamed to admit that I did stop doing gymnastics, and I quit it after a while because it was taking a toll on my body. And at one point I wanted to go to the Olympics. At one point it was like my big dream was like, oh my gosh, I want to be on Broadway and I want to be in the Olympics, and that's how I wanted to be. And sometimes things just don't happen that way. And I love what I learned from gymnastics in 12 years of doing it. But it didn't end up being what I would do as an adult. But I've always had this love for theater, and I've always wanted to be on Broadway, and that's something that I really have committed to, and I feel like I owe it to my younger self as well. So yeah, I really do love that it's been a part of my life and always an outlet for me, and it's always where I end up making the most friends is in theater. And most of the people in my life who I'm close with, or most of the relationships that I've formed, have been through casts and companies of my shows. And people I still talk to from having done theater in sixth grade, and having done theater my freshman year of high school. I still talk to all of my directors. Every director I've worked with, I still talk to in some capacity and update them about my theater career. And it's really exciting because I feel so much support from all of them. But yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's really keeping your inner child at the forefront. I think that's so
Mhm.
important, especially for
Yeah.
all artists. It's so important. So I want to kind of get into the nitty gritty. So you were Belle in Beauty and the Beast, and
Yes.
it's such it's so fascinating because for those of you who don't know, I interned with Ranease a while ago. Like this was like during COVID-19. And so it was just really cool to kind of see how you've grown and gone on to college, and now that you're performing, in a professional setting. That's so awesome. So I wanted to get a little bit of insight into, auditioning and getting the role, like all of that. I just want to learn so much more.
Yes, I still, it is weird to say now that the show has closed.
Mhm.
We closed last week. I still feel so excited just to talk about it, but essentially Music Theater Wichita does a tour. They go to 4 different cities, and they seek college age talent from freshman year to just graduated, freshly graduated seniors. Typically in the music theater department, the dance performance, we have a few dance performance majors, and they look for 25 resident ensemble members who will fill out the ensemble of the entire season, with different cases here and there. Some people do 3 out of the 4 shows, some people do 2 shows. It just kind of depends. But the majority of us are there for the entire summer or for the 3 last shows. And I was in the Chicago location, which was their first weekend. They go to Chicago, New York City, Oklahoma City, and Wichita. And I was like the second day of auditions, and their season this year was kind of like there was something for everybody. They started off with Rock of Ages, which is a rock musical. It's a jukebox musical, so it's a lot of rock songs that people know. And then they did a performance for July 4th, and then Beauty and the Beast, and then we're doing Ragtime and then Cats. So auditioning is hard because you have to pick something that either pertains to the season itself or what's going to show off your voice best or what you want to put forward. And I decided to go in with a piece that was from Beauty and the Beast. That was one of Belle's songs because Belle is a dream role of mine. And my older sister actually played Belle as well. And so I had just seen her in it in December. And then I sang Respect by Aretha Franklin to kind of give them a different side of my voice that wasn't very Disney, wasn't very like mezzo soprano, and kind of catered to that rock aspect. I don't know. And so I remember going in, I've told this story a few times now, and I feel like this is a story I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. But it was Saturday morning in the 19th floor of a Chicago building, this small ballet studio. And Brian J. Markham, who is the artistic director of Music Theater Wichita and the director of Beauty and the Beast, was sitting there, and I had sung my songs, and he was like, okay, we're going to call you in for Belle. And I was like, oh, okay. We were supposed to have a dance call like a few hours later. So you do your audition in the morning, and then there's like a 2-hour dance call from like 1 to 3. And he was like, I want you to come back in like an hour. And I was like, okay. So I got this packet for Belle and then from one of the other principals, Sherry from Rock of Ages. Long story short, I came back in, did my scenes. And I remember I was looking out this window and I was crying at the end of singing A Change in Me because I walked in singing Home, which is the first song Belle sings. And then I had to sing the other song in the packet, which was A Change in Me. And I remember feeling so grounded and so hopeful and so proud of myself because I have never really been a good auditioner. Auditions really stress me out actually. And since for the past 2 years of school, I've worked on that training and I've worked on like how I can be a better auditioner and how can I be better in audition rooms. And I remember I sang the song and everyone else in the panel who was there was just like teary-eyed or like wiping tears. Eric Scotto, who was the director of Rock of Ages, was also in the room. And I remember he's also went to CCM. He's a fellow Bearcat like me. So I was really excited to audition for him. And Brian turned to me and he was like, it's so nice to watch good people do good work. And I just, regardless of what was going to happen, I knew that that was a good audition for me. And at the end of the day, when I get to share my art with someone else, when I get to put my best foot forward, when I get to live truthfully and hopefully in an imaginary world, which is what the definition of acting is, I felt like I feel like I've done my job. And so I did that. And, the rest is kind of history. A few weeks later, they asked me to send in a tape of A Change in Me. And then I got an email while they were still in auditions that they wanted me to come out here for the summer. They didn't give me the role yet, but they were like, here's your offer, June 10th to September 10th. And I'm doing 4 shows with them. And it's kind of crazy. I only have 5 weeks left, but I still have 2 shows to do. So it's like a crazy schedule. But yeah, I got the email and they were like, we want you to be Belle. And I was in my living room in Cincinnati and was like, I didn't cry actually. People think I like cried. I was like jumping up and down and my roommate was there with me and we were just like, what's happening? And I called everybody and that was in, I want to say that was in March. And still like from March to July, I just was so struck and dumbfounded at this possibility of being a Black Belle and getting to tell this story. But yeah, that's just kind of how it happened. And we did shows from July 26th to 30th. We had 3 weeks to put it up and perform it. And we did it. So it's good to say that it went well.
Yeah, and that's so cool to hear that your sister also performed it.
Yes.
Like you had like essentially like someone to look to, and it's nice
Hmm.
that it was a family member. Specifically because obviously we know the story of Beauty and the Beast. Traditionally, a white actress will play Belle. So when you're able to see a person of color, a black woman step into this role, it's just so awesome and great for representation. And also, like, again, like your sister was doing it. So she did she have any advice for you? That's actually a
Um,
cool thing to hear.
yeah, it's well, a lot of it, she didn't have advice in terms of like how to play the character, because what I love about my sister is she's very respectful of like, I have my art, you have yours, and like if you have questions, ask me, but like I'm not gonna like tell you how to play a role. But she did have advice about taking care of myself, and she was like, you need to be sleeping more than you think, you need to be speaking less more than you think. That was kind of contradictory, but the idea that I need to really take care of my voice. Um, you need to not be so hard on yourself, because one thing that does run in my family is this kind of perfectionist mentality, and I'm sure a lot of people struggle with this, but as performers, especially when you're in a field where you're constantly trying not to compare yourself to others, when you're constantly being put up literally like headshot by headshot next to other people, and people are watching your tapes next to someone else's, it is so difficult to not really harp on yourself. And my sister and I talked about this, and about how um, we kind of just have to do what's best for us, and you have to make sure that you are you understand there's a reason that they casted you, there's a reason that you're in the room, there's a reason that you even put yourself in this position in the first place, because you knew you were capable. And that's something I think about a lot, is like, if I didn't think I could do this, I wouldn't have done it. There are things I haven't tried to do because I'm either not ready or it's not for me. And I woke up that day and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is what's for me. And something I didn't mention before is I switched my song the night before, for the Respect by Aretha Franklin song. I could not figure out what piece I wanted to do for Rock of Ages. And I remember sitting there like, what? I was Googling Tina Turner songs. I was Googling Donna Summer. Like, I was just trying to find anything that was reminiscent of like a maybe rock sort of like beltier song. And I changed my song the night before, and I was like, well, if they don't like this, then it's fine, I'm going to do my best. But my sister and I talk a lot about that, and it was really great that I got to watch her in December, and I have videos of her from her show that I was using. So I was constantly watching her performances and studying like her Belle. So I really am grateful for having that experience, and for having my sister as well.
That is so cool. Yeah, I really loved hearing that, and just also I'm really big on community. I think that's
Mm,
like the biggest thing, especially in the entertainment field,
yep.
having that community, whether that's through friends or family, even strangers, you know, now with social media, there's so many different ways to connect. So like it's
Yeah.
really awesome to hear that you have a great support system. And I feel like for some people that's really rare. So that's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you did mention that you have two more shows, that you're going to be in. Could you, explain what your role is in those, and, what the rest of your summer is looking like?
Yeah. So I have every Monday off. Today's a Monday, for those of you who don't know. So we rehearse for about a week with different productions. And right now we're doing Ragtime, which is truly one of the most beautiful, one of the most heartbreaking, and one of the most brilliant pieces of theater I've ever had the opportunity to be part of. It's a musical with a book by Terrence McNeely, and music by Stephen Flaherty and Lynn Ahrens, lyrics by Lynn Ahrens. And it is a piece about 1906 America. And it is really hard to explain, so I'm not going to try to attempt to explain it. But if I were to think about essential themes, it is about an idealistic America, and what we want America to look like versus what it actually looks like. And it's told through the lens of three different groups of people. There's an immigrant ensemble made of Jewish and Eastern European immigrants, following a Jewish immigrant and his daughter. And then there are two Black leads, who are Sarah and Cole House, and it's their love story or lack thereof, and they're supported by the people of Harlem. And then there's the New Rochelle group, which is white people in New Rochelle, New York. And it is a piece that is almost entirely sung through. Like there are scenes, but all the scenes are about a page long, and they are just means to give like more context before going into the next song. It's about 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I can tell you, it is not easy. It is there is something we do in theater called tapping in and tapping out. And it's when you walk into a space and you prepare yourself to deal with really difficult, possibly traumatic material. And you kind of have to take yourself out of it for a moment in order to tell this story. And then you tap out of it, meaning that you literally will shake it off, we'll dance it off, and we'll kind of come back to reality for a moment. Because I mean, honestly, there are themes of like Black people getting harassed and assaulted and killed in this show. There are themes of immigrants being treated as less than. There's so much xenophobia in this show. But it's all to serve a purpose. And unfortunately, it is very akin to like 2023 America. And that is the scariest part of being part of this show, is that it's set in 1906. It was written in the early 2000s, and it's applying to us almost 30 years after it was written. And so it's really, it's so beautiful, and I'm so happy to be part of it. And also in the same vein, I'm excited because we only have to do it like 7 times, and I don't think I could do this show more than over a weekend, for more than a weekend. But that's Ragtime, and I'm in the Harlem Ensemble, like various roles. It's actually a very heavy ensemble show, which I was not prepared for. We're in and out a lot, singing off stage a lot, super fun. I have so many costumes. I'm really thrilled. I haven't been part of an ensemble in a really long time. So I love it. And then the last show we're doing in the season is Cats. It's a musical about cats, and written by Andrew Lloyd Webber, composed by rather. And it's a really great piece for dancers. It is a piece that is so as musical theater as you can get, where you have singing and dancing cats that are trying to get to the Heaviside layer, and it's just a whole show about which cat is going to make it to the Heaviside layer. And there's a whole dance sequence. I'm playing Bombalurina, and understudying Grisabella, who's one of the featured cats, and Grisabella is one of the principal cats. And I'm really excited because it's a show I've never done before, and it's a show that not a lot of theaters do all the time. So we will put that up for September 6th through 10th. Ragtime's August 16th to 20th. We actually moved to stage this Thursday for Ragtime. And we do a designer run where the lighting, sound, costume, wardrobe, costume, wig, they all come in and they watch the show in the rehearsal room before we move to stage Thursday. So we move very, very quickly out here. That's the only way to put up 5 shows in the course of like 4 months. But it's really exciting, and I'm loving the people here. I live with 2 of the resident ensemble members, and they've become 2 of my favorite people, 2 of my best friends, like lifelong friends here. And it's just such a warm environment, even though we're doing really hard work, and not just hard in the sense of like mentally and emotionally, but also just like physically. It is just difficult to be learning music in the morning, go home for lunch, and then put that song on its feet in the afternoon. And then you have that day to review it, and you don't see it again until we run the show. So it really picks your brain in terms of being a performer. But it's definitely what I need before I go back to school. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. And Ragtime's actually one of my favorite musicals.
Uh,
So I really wish I was down there to go see it.
I
But
yeah, I mean, as it should be. I did it in concert in April, and we did almost the full show. We cut about 5 songs for length reasons, but I did it with the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra in Cincinnati at the Cincinnati Music Hall. And I was in the ensemble again, so I kind of already knew the music when I came here. So I got very lucky that I don't have to learn like 30 new songs. But it's so beautiful. I mean, I think it's an underrated musical because people who don't know musical theater don't typically know the show, but they know ragtime music, like the style of music, but they don't really know Ragtime the musical. So yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a show worth seeing if there's any type of community theater performance, regional performance. I feel like people should definitely go see it. And also Cats too. I remember when Cats was on Broadway and then it closed.
Yes.
I was like, I never got to see it.
And back, it's being revived. I
Oh,
heard.
okay.
Yes,
That's
it is being
new.
revived. I can't remember. I believe it's off Broadway, but I'll have to check
Mhm.
that. I can't remember quite yet, but I'm sure one of my roommates could tell me, but I think it's off Broadway. But yes, support local theater if you're watching this. Any local theater, universities, do it, do it, do it.
Yes, of course. And actually kind of leads me into some of my final questions. You're obviously a college student and especially someone who's in the arts. It's a
Yeah.
different experience than someone who might go to school for something different, maybe in the STEM field, you know. So I always wonder for musical theater actors getting a BFA, what's kind of like in a way like a succinct day to day of like what you have to
A
do.
day in the life.
Yes.
That's a great question, and it's oh, it's something. So essentially, I can't speak for every musical theater program, but generally for those that are conservatories like my school, and specifically BFA programs, our schedules lean on the side of an intense musical theater study that is focused around music, singing, dancing, and acting. And then you have general education courses that are required by every university. So some schools more than others. For example, my school doesn't require as many general education classes or gen eds as other schools, but for me, I do tap. I have tap class, jazz, which is just like jazz dance and different variations of Broadway style dancing, and ballet for my dance classes, and those are all twice a week. And then acting 3 times a week. We have a vocal coaching class, which is when we study acting through song, and we focus on how do you act in a musical theater style through music, and that's twice a week. And you have a small group, which is with like 4 other people in your class, and then every Friday, it's the entire class. So my class is a class of 18. And so every class is about that size. We have a class of 15, the class below me. The one coming in, I believe, is around the same, 14 or 15. And the one above me, I think, is closer to 19. So a very small program comprised of about 60 to 70 people. And then we have what else? We have voice lessons. You have a voice lesson once a week, which is about 55 minutes. And then on top of that, people usually minor, and you can't double major at my school. Some schools allow you to, a lot of BFA programs don't let you because the schedules are so intense, but you can minor. And so I'm actually obtaining my minor in creative writing because it's my other, I love poetry. I love like essay writing. Like I just love writing. It's a really big outlet for me. And I really see writing as an art as well. So that's that. And then am I forgetting anything? Well, we have varying electives every semester. So like last year, my first term, I split between costume and makeup, and we learned about different ways to, not costume, sorry, wig and makeup. And we did those in kind of rep, we did them back and forth. And then we had a vocal health class second semester. My first year, we had a technical production class. This upcoming year, we'll have an audition techniques class. And so they'll like insert little things that are needed for us to have a better understanding of the whole art form and not just the aspect that we're a part of. So I love it because it's so like intense. It really is a 4-year intensive on musical theater, but it is very difficult because I can't wake up, put on sweats, and sit in the back of a lecture. Like I have to be stretching and dancing for 2 hours in the morning and then an hour in the evening. And so it does take a toll. And then on top of that, we do shows. So our school days are usually done at about 3, sometimes 2, it depends on your day. And then rehearsals are usually from 6 to 10 or 6:30 to 10:30 for whatever show you're part of. And we do auditions for the entire season at the beginning of the school year. And then we have 4 to 5 musicals throughout the year, and then independent studies that are interweaved in there as well. That is a lot of information, but that's how it works for our BFA for musical theater.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, again, like I think with a BFA, it is so intense. And with arts,
Mhm.
working on your craft is so important. So I definitely understand that, but it definitely is important to take care of yourself. So, actually, another question I had that I prepared was, what's one piece of advice that you can share with emerging artists when it comes to mental health and taking care of yourself? I think right now there's just such a big pressure on people to just constantly make, and no time for relaxation or, revitalizing yourself. So like, what do you do personally to kind of reset?
Yeah, I love this question. So thank you for that, because I don't think we talk about mental health enough in the art industry, specifically in theater, when your whole career is based off of whether you're vocally healthy or physically healthy. And one thing to sum it up, and then I'll explain, is that you come first. And I think a lot of times we're very apologetic about our mental and physical health, and we will try so hard to like push through an injury or push through that really traumatic thing that just happened with your family and just kind of snap out of it. But you come first. And if you're not able to bring your whole self, or if you're not able to bring the best version of yourself, then you really need to evaluate how important that situation is, or that rehearsal, or that show even. For me, I'm Christian. I mentioned like I've grown up attending church, and so the most grounding thing for me is my Christianity and my faith. And I know that regardless of what is happening in my life, I can pray about it. I can go to church. I can talk to my family. And I have that relationship with God as well. And that's just a spiritual thing for me. And then also on top of it, like I said, I mentioned writing, journaling is so big for me. It's just something that gets me through any tough situation, is being able to write out those thoughts. And I do recommend journaling for anyone. You don't have to be religious, and you don't have to be a good writer. Like, it's just solely about getting your thoughts and emotions onto paper, because sometimes you'll learn things that you wouldn't have otherwise learned if you hadn't written it down, because you just start to kind of go into a flow of writing and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know I felt this way. And sometimes if you don't want to tell anyone, it helps you just to get that out. Taking time to really rest. I think it is so hard to rest as a performer, because I think, okay, I can be doing something. I can be running my lines. I can be learning more music. I can be going over those dance steps. But if I don't recharge myself, I don't think there's any way I can actually do all of those things and well. And also to ask for help, and to have people that will support you, and people who want the best for you. I think because my field is so competitive, there's a lot of judgment that comes with musical theater in a negative way. And I've had to just get rid of any and all relationships that are not beneficial to my theater experience. And that being said, like, I feel that it's made me a better actor, and it's made me someone who is so much more compassionate. That's my roommate right there too. That's good. But it's made me a better actor, just being able to empathize with other people, and being able to understand that, like, what other people are going through, and how to best help everyone else who's working in the room. And also sometimes, if I'm not feeling my best, but I know that I can give enough to go to a rehearsal, using that, I don't have to give my 100% all the time, but I can be like, I can go to my director or my choreographer and be like, hey, today I only have 70%, but I'm here and I'm going to give you my best 70 that I can. And giving your best doesn't mean being at 100% all the time. It just means making the most of what you have that day. And then learning those boundaries for yourself, and what is, okay, I need to stay home today, but I'll review things. And sometimes, because we have short rehearsal processes, you don't have a lot of time. So you really have to make a judgment call based on how well you know yourself, and how well you know the situation, and what company you're working for. But that's really what's kept me sane. Those are the few things, and that's what I've learned so far. Granted, I've only really been in this industry now for like 2 years professionally, but I'm excited to keep learning about it and growing in it too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, is just keeping yourself well. Like you said, a career in the arts, no matter what discipline you go into, it's a lot of mental and emotional and physical
Yeah.
work, and it takes a toll on yourself. So I'm really happy that you're able to share what you do, and hopefully that will help someone else who might be wondering, how do I navigate this? Because I
Mhm.
want to have the best career, still
Mhm.
competitive, but also like I need to make sure that I'm okay, or else I can't do my best. So that's really great. So yeah, those are all of my questions. You're so amazing to talk to. I'm so happy I got to speak with you, and to learn more about what you've done, what you're planning on doing, and hopefully, again, people will watch and feel inspired to, pursue whatever creative endeavors that they have. So really awesome to talk with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm always around. And if people want to reach out or ask more about me, or even more about my school as well, I'm on Instagram at Ranease, and my school has a TikTok and Instagram account, which is just at CCMMT News. And you can find so many. We actually have videos called A Day in the Life, and you can like watch a day in the life videos of all different people from our program. And like when we do outside of school theater, when we do theater at school, stuff like that, and performances, who's doing what over the summer, because we're all kind of all around the US. But yeah, and Canada too. But just kind of those experiences. So if you're ever interested or you want to learn more, you can find more there.
Definitely check them out. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.